guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to the vlog. So today I'll be reviewing and sharing my personal opinion on my 2021 KTM 890 Adventure R. I've done about 6,800 kilometers and so many miles. Let's get into it. So today we'll be talking about 5 main aspects, and I'll be sharing my view on each of these, and following the aspects consists of the following. So firstly, we will be talking about the electronics of this motorcycle, the comfort, the performance, reliability, and lastly about the price. So if you feel free to skip to each aspect, and we'll give you the timestamps. Let's talk about the electronics. So this motorcycle's been fitted with 4 different settings. So firstly, you've got street mode, and I just want to make it clear, you can go and look at most of the review videos on the KTM 890 Adventure R, where they talk about the different settings and they try to really complicate it. I'm going to try and explain it as simple as possible. So you've got street mode. Street mode, you've got the anti-wheelie function, which is active, and very little slip on your rear tire. You've got rain mode, where your anti-wheelie function is also active and no slip on the back tire. You've got an off-road mode. Off-road mode increases your slip on the rear tire, so you can slide out a little bit, and your anti-wheelie mode is deactive, so you can wheelie on off-road mode. Then lastly, you've got rally mode. Rally mode is the mode that I ride in, and the reason why is you can actually set your slip. So you've got a slip setting from 1 to 10, as you guys can see, or 1 to 9, and you can determine the amount of slip on your rear tire. Obviously your anti-wheelie function is also deactivated, so you can also wheelie on this. So the reason this motorcycle's got rally mode is because it's been activated. I bought it with the rally pack, so it's got that function and a few others. So the next thing that you can also set is your throttle response. So the throttle response can also be set, if I can show you guys. You can set your throttle response in rally mode, either to street, rally, or off-road. And what that actually just does is it determines how sensitive your throttle is. My personal ride mode that I usually use in most 80% of the time is rally mode slip 3, and I use the throttle on response on street, and then obviously lastly is your ABS. You can set it either in road mode or off-road mode. Road mode is ABS activated in the front and in the rear, which you'll obviously use on tar road. And then you've got a setting off-road mode, where your ABS is activated in the front but not in the rear. So those are the simple settings of the ABS and the different ride modes. And then lastly, we've got quick shift. Alright, so quick shift on my motorcycle, you'll always see it activated. I find it quite nice to ride in it. The reason why, maybe I'm just a bit lazy to use the clutch, but you only need to use the clutch when pulling away in first gear. After that, going from 2 up to the second gear up to the 6th gear, you can just use your gear selector. And then going down from 6 up to 2 and 1, again just gear selector, no clutch needed. Alright, so cruise control. This motorcycle's also been fitted with cruise control. Very easy and simple to use. I must say I don't use it quite that often, but when I am on a long straight, on a long boring road, I do use it. So it's very simple. To activate or deactivate, you just have to push it to the side, and then to reset or increase your speed, you just press it up, and to reduce the speed or just set it, you have to push it down. So it's actually really quite simple. Alright, so now let's get to a rating out of 10. The KTM 890 Adventure R, its electronics I've found quite very easy to use. It's really quite simple, and it's actually quite functional. You'll see on most motorcycles you all get these nice and fancy buttons, but they don't really work. On this motorcycle it actually does, hence my rating, giving it an 8 out of 10. Let's move on to the next aspect, which is comfort. So this motorcycle's been fitted with a WP Explorer in the front, fully adjustable front and rear shock. The front shock's got 240 millimeters of travel, as well as the back shock. So the front shock's, like I said, fully adjustable. You can set the rebound as well as the compression. On the rear shock you can set the preload as well as the real rebound. In the KTM manual it gives you 4 different modes, and the 4 different modes are as follows. So you've got standard, you've got comfort, you've got sport, and you've got full payload. I think it's pretty self-explanatory as to what the different modes on these shocks are, and personally I use it in sport in the front and comfort at the back. That's just how I ride, and that's just how it is, and that's what I found works the best. I have played around with it a little bit, but that's what I found works for me. Obviously your weight plays a big factor and a role in setting these things, so once again that's what I've chosen, and that's what I'm sticking to for now until I know better. So let's talk about the performance of these shocks on the gravel road. I've ridden with a few different types of brands motorcycle in the past few months, and I must say these WP shocks really come out on top, as it really outperforms most of its competitors. If you don't agree, show us and give us some info in the comments stating what you think about my statement. But I definitely do think this shocks comes out on top, and it really performs as well as a KTM 300 or its competitors. Let's talk about the performance on tar road. So it really also, once again, if it performs well on the gravel road, it most certainly will perform well on the tar road. This motorcycle is not a 300 or 250 kilometers an hour motorcycle, so going 140, which is the normal speed that I usually do, it really does perform well, and it eats up these potholes and bumps in South Africa. So that's that. Let's talk about the seat. So most KTM owners will definitely agree with my following statement, and that is this any KTM seat is actually horrible, and it's definitely not different on this motorcycle. So definitely, if you want to do some on-road riding with this motorcycle and you're going to be seated most of the time, it's definitely something you have to look at changing. So the seat height, it's 88 millimeters above the ground, 88 centimeters above the ground, and I'm 1.83 meters tall, and my toes, my feet aren't able to touch the ground on both sides, so I have to have a flat sole on the one side and my toes on the other side. So it's definitely a bit high. If you're 1.8 and shorter, it's definitely going to become a challenge, as this motorcycle is quite heavy, and you're going to have to maybe go into your dealer and get that spring changed out. Let's talk lastly about the wind and rain protection. So this motorcycle is obviously a bit more off-road focused, but we have to bring this in. As you guys can see, the visor is quite low, and wind is definitely an issue. as well as obviously if the wind's going to be an issue, the rain is also going to be an issue. So that's the only two factors, including the seat, that's going to bring down the overall rating for comfort, which I'm giving a 6 out of 10. Alright guys, so let's talk about the KTM 890's performance. So this 890's got a 4-stroke parallel twin engine with 4 valves per cylinder. It's got a 890cc engine with 105 horsepower at 8000 rpm and 100 newton meters torque at 6500 atm. It's got a 6-speed transmission. Let's talk about the tires. It's got a 21-inch front wheel and an 18-inch rear wheel. It's got dual disc brakes in the front and a single at the back. Alright, so this motorcycle weighs about 210 kgs. It's got a 20-litre fuel capacity and gets anything between 17 and 23 kilometers per litre. I usually do around a range, if I'm riding nice economically, my range is usually between 400 and 450 kilometers on a tank. Alright, so performance. This motor, so we've done a video on it before, and I'll link it down in the description about this motorcycle 0 to 100. So we got 3.16 seconds from 0 to 100. Now I'm pretty sure I'll be able to get it from 0 to 100 below 3 seconds. I must add that we've added a wings exhaust and also a Rottweiler power plate, which increases your air intake. So that definitely did contribute. The manufacturer says it can do a 0 to 100 in 3.7. So 3.16, I think it's quite good, and it's really fast, and it really does catch you by surprise when you first buy this motorcycle. So let's move on to the braking. So the KTM 890, like I said, it's got a dual disc brake in front and one disc brake at the rear. We were able to do a 100 to 0 in 34 meters, which I think is quite impressive, and it really does brake extremely well. So that's it about braking. So we just spoke about a few pointers on performance, and this motorcycle I personally think really outperforms anything in its league or class, and hence I'm giving it a rating 9 out of 10. Alright guys, so we've covered quite a few aspects, and one of the main aspects when purchasing a motorcycle is obviously reliability. So I've picked up 2 issues on my KTM 890. I've picked up an issue with the front suspension and with the rear suspension. My right front shock on the trip down to the hell, link in the description to that video. The seal was leaking, as well as the rear shock seal was leaking, which was quite annoying, as the motorcycle at that time only had about 4,000 kilometers on, if I'm not mistaken, and the front shock was not, they weren't able to fix it under warranty. I don't know why KTM does that, but the rear shock they did fix, and I only got it back last Friday. So that was solved, and that's the only issues I had with the shocks. Another issue I picked up was the immobilizer antenna. There was a wire or connection electrical issue with the immobilizer antenna, but I was still able to ride the motorcycle, although that I had that issue. It was just a red warning sign that came up, and you weren't able to start the bike when the steering wheel was turned to the left, which is extremely weird. So I just had to turn it to the right and start it. So they actually, KTM now sprayed, flew in a new ignition system and antenna from Austria, and that problem was also solved under warranty. So I did have these 2 issues on my motorcycle. That's the only 2 issues I had on this bike, and which is odd, because my dad has the exact same motorcycle. He's got about 2,000 k's less than I do on it, and he hasn't had any trouble whatsoever. So I don't know if it's just this motorcycle, but taking into account that my dad's motorcycle didn't give any issues, mine only had 2 problems, up to almost 7,000 kilometers, which was solved under warranty except for the front seals. Hence my overall rating on this reliability aspect, I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. So I saved the best aspect for last, and that is price, and which is obviously also a big contributing factor when buying a motorcycle. So it was very difficult to compare the price point to the different brands of adventure bikes that is available at the moment, but the few that I did get and I am comparing it to was the Husqvarna Norton 901, which is quite a new motorcycle. Cost around 247,000 rand, where this KTM cost 240,000 rand with the Rally pack included. Obviously a local dealer in Nelspruit, KTM Old Henny, gave me a good price. So I think comparing those 2 motorcycles, you would come at the same price at the end of the day. So then the next motorcycle I'm comparing it to is a Yamaha Tenere 700, and Yamaha is asking 200,000 rand for that motorcycle, which is quite a bit lower than the KTM and Husqvarna, which makes it a good deal. But yes, once again, we've got different applications for different motorcycles. So then we've got the BMW GS 850, which they're also asking 240,000 rand on, and then we've got the Triumph Tiger, which is coming in at 235,000. And then lastly, we've got the Honda African Twin 1100. I wasn't able to find 1,000 cc. They're asking 267,000 rand for the African Twin. So if you look at all the factors and all the different price points, I think that its price point is quite average, and it's nothing that stands out. The only bike here that stands out quite a little bit is the Tenere, which comes in at 200,000, which is about 40,000 less than all the other competing brands. And I would say KTM is quite nicely priced, and I'll give the price point a rating of 8 out of 10. Alright guys, so let's sum up what we've covered in all the different aspects. The overall rating ended up being 7.6 out of 10. Personally, I will definitely recommend this motorcycle to any level of rider, and the reason being, this motorcycle definitely improved my capability and also my confidence with all its different electronic settings and the extra power. So 7.6 out of 10 is like I said, a high rating. The only thing that definitely brought down the rating was comfort, which the seat and the wind and rain protection definitely brought down the overall rating on comfort. So I'm also looking at purchasing an additional KTM 1290 Super Adventure for the longer trips and the trips that my wife wants to come along with, as it's way more comfortable seat wise and protection from rain and wind. So yeah, that's the end of this video guys. So we would really appreciate it if you guys give us some feedback down in the comments below, if you guys like this type of content. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.